Nobody fool you, she come here pan a canoe and from Shilana Pito, the woman start to limbo. She bomb a ride, she jump inside, she start to turn, she nearly make me run a ground. If you come to party and see a pretty lady, watch it for.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Let 'em Eat Laughs, the show where comedy, culture, and the culinary collide. I'm your host, enoje Ozjam, and we're here kicking off another great time, another great sit down. Tonight I have our special guest, Gerry from Laz Authentic Cuisine. But before we get into who I'm sitting with and what this is all about, I want to remind you that this week coming up, we're kicking off the Comedylicious Food and Comedy Festival. You can find out more information about it at comedylicious.ca. 4 great shows over 4 great nights starting on Thursday, October the 26th at the Real Jerk. We're going to be having Jokes and Jerk on Saturday night. Friday night we're going to be at Toast on Bloor for No Boys Allowed. Crunchy Tigers on Thursday, like I said. And Sunday we're going to be right here at Laz Authentic Cuisine for the Belly Buss Brunch. So I want to thank our sponsors, Scarpod Studio, Spice of Life Toronto, and also AfriCorp. And I'll have all of our sponsors linked in the post. So remember to go and look for your tickets at comedylicious.ca, and you can also find out more information on Instagram at ComedyLiciousFest, or also Food, Folks, and Jokes, which is what this festival is all about. So I want to thank you again for joining us, and welcome to our guest, Gerry.
Thank you for having me. I should say thank you for having you.
Thank you for
having you at last.
Thank you for having me in your beautiful space here at Laz.
And I really look forward to having you with us on Sunday. We're excited to be part of the whole program and making it a success.
Thank you, and I'm very excited about the food. When I first came across this spot, Laz Authentic Cuisine, I have to say it was a game changer for me. Okay. We just a friend told us about it, when I first came here not long ago this summer, and we came in for a early morning breakfast after a nice long walk here in the city of Markham, and it was perfect. Yeah. I couldn't believe I'd never heard of it before. Yeah. When did you open up?
We officially opened in February.
Of 2023?
February of 2023. We were in the making in 2021. We had some challenges in getting it together, but nothing comes easy, as you know.
Of course.
I live in the world that I call the wow factor.
The wow factor.
So when you want to wow people and get things done at that level, it takes some time. It's not something you can do overnight. So it was a work in progress.
Okay.
We've been fortunate to get it right in the end, and here we are with a space and an environment that really depicts what we should be representing in terms of our community, our culture, our culinary arts, presented at a different level, with a different style, a different flavor, and added to that is the value added, the comedy, the jazz, the different types of creative activities that go with culinary arts. So this is why we were born.
Amazing. But to conceive of starting a restaurant in 2021, in the middle of a pandemic, restaurants were shutting down left and right. What would make you say, this is a good time for me to start something like this?
That's a little bit about who I am. I'm a little bit of a risk taker.
All right.
I look at things outside the box and I present things differently. And yes, the pandemic, when everybody was panicking and beginning to fall apart, that's the moment I sat still and said, okay, well, how are we coming out of this? We need to come out of this with positivity. We need to display the fact that we as cultural people are resilient. Creative minds need to think differently when things seem challenging. And during the pandemic, when everybody was panicking, we were more or less looking for ways to succeed. We did a lot of catering during that time. And yes, I felt that if we brought restauranting to a different level, presented it differently, combined it with the creative aspect of our culture, we should be able to do well. And that's exactly what we aim to do, and we're not there 100% yet, but I think we're about 80% there.
All right. Well, you speak a lot of culture. Where are you from?
I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. The hub of culture, I call it. You know, Trinidad's carnival is really the mecca, as we would like to see it. And moving that, we've expanded it throughout the world. And in the mecca, I have been culturally tuned. I've been brought up in culture.
Yes.
I live carnival. Carnival is it's in the blood, as they call it. I've been in Toronto for a number of years, been involved in Caribana, Toronto Carnival as well. But I have a passion for creativity, all types. So be it comedy, be it music, be it the mass, be it poetry, I do my best to ensure that it gets a space in our society, in our world, in our culture.
So that was part of the goal, even in opening the restaurant, was to make a space for performing arts?
It was merging creativity with culinary arts. You know, Laz, who is our major chef and part owner, she has a culinary flair for presenting Caribbean food. It's not just, for her, it's not just food on a plate. It's how it's presented as well. It's the color, how it looks. It looks special. And she's a very, very stickler for how these things are presented. Every image of a dish comes out of Laz has to be seen in a particular way. That's her motto. And merging that with the various skills and talents, the decor, the whole creative aspect of it, all comes together. And that's what makes us who we are.
That's amazing. And I think it really resonates for me because, you know, growing up in Toronto, you know, there's a certain relationship that we have with our food, you know, being able to go out and find our food in places and feel like we're really a part of the city culture. You know, when you go out, your mother won't let you have McDonald's, but she might let you have a roti. Right. You know, if you can find some place that makes a really good one, because I think the level that I expect for Caribbean food is that if I'm going to get it in the street, it has to be better than what I can make myself at home.
Right.
I want to be impressed. Yes. I don't want, you know, even though I know we need fast food options as well, you don't always want to go out and get, you know, 4-for-1 jerk chicken.
Right. Exactly.
You know, sometimes you want something a little better, a little bit more upscale, something that you feel you have to dress up for.
In my mind, you know, Laz was something that I thought about years ago, to be honest. I don't eat publicly. Strange enough, people say, I have a challenge eating doubles. Unless it's made in the right place or from the right people, I'm not eating doubles. It doesn't mean I don't like doubles, I love doubles, but it has to be paired in the right space and the right place for me to enjoy.
You can't eat from everybody.
Right. And I think that's my upbringing. You know, when I think back of my parents, my grandparents, how they had us eating, I could not eat out. I could not go to the neighbor and get bread. You crazy, that's not going to work. So we had a challenge. And I think that has been instilled in me. But even then, when I remember coming to Toronto a few years ago, it was part of Jamal Maglore's camp. Okay. And I had just come in from Trinidad and I was hungry. And I remember saying to him, you know, where can I eat? He was like, okay, let's start a thing. And they couldn't find a spot for me. I was like, you can't be serious. I'm in Toronto and I can't find something that I would like to eat. Culturally, you know. And that's how I was introduced to Laz, as a matter of fact, because she was the only person we could find that could give me something that was palatable to my liking at the time. And it was a funny story, but that's how it evolved.
So Laz was catering or something?
Laz was doing this as a hobby. She's a financial analyst by profession, but loved cooking from her home back in Siparia in Trinidad. And she was doing this as a side thing and coming to the camps and serving it and people were having food.
Okay.
Or she would go to some of the events that were taking place in the city and prepare a meal outside the cultural event and sell it. And I remember seeing her one time at King and Queen doing bacon chop as a vendor. with flour up to her shoulders and line around the corner. I'm like, you can't be serious, you know. And it was amazing to me. But that's how we were able to get the foods that we love in these environments. And even from then I said, no, this has to be done the right way. I've always dreamt of having a doubles restaurant. You know, we call it a little double shop or a roti shop, but why it can't be a restaurant of a high standard that sets an example, that goes to a different level, and we've never been able to make it happen. So that's how Laz was born, really, and I felt, you know, we can serve our Caribbean dishes in a fine dining setting. It doesn't always have to be in a Styrotex box. It doesn't have to be in a takeaway environment.
Right.
It must be an area where we can dine and socialize and entertain and still enjoy our cultural Caribbean meals.
Yes, and hear our music and see our performers and everything like that while we enjoy.
So your concept of belly busting and that brunch, comedy brunch that you're talking about, is in fact the highest level for me, because now you have a Sunday Caribbean meal, kuku, callaloo, fish, rice, macaroni pie, being served with comedy as the entertainment. That's unheard of, and I implore you for doing it. I'm really proud and fun that you able to think this up, because that's my dream. That's what I see the way we operate. So I can just already imagine what's going to happen on that Sunday. I know to the audience who is not bought their tickets yet, I'm not saying this as a promo, but you are going to miss something awesome, because that's what it is. We've had events here where we've had poetry and Caribbean arts, or Caribbean meals, and the poetry blew people's mind. We did a fashion show recently.
Really?
Right on the patio here, where we had Caribbean fashion. We brought a Caribbean designer up, brought his African Caribbean wear with our culture, and a Sunday again. So that's the merging and the marrying of cultural arts and culinary dishes from the Caribbean coming together during themselves. And to me, there's nothing better than that.
I love that. I definitely love it too. And I feel like you're right when you say we meld all of the different parts of our culture in spaces like yours. You know, when I came here and I sat down in front of the food that I said was just, when I say the food was perfect, it wasn't just about the food was perfect. It was about the environment was perfect. You know, we were laughing with the wait staff. You know, I looked at the walls and I saw my culture reflected back at me. The music was playing, reflected my culture. The drink that I had reflected my culture. I felt all the way comfortable. Like I felt like I belonged here. I didn't feel like it was a place where I needed to, like, you know, look around and see, you know, was I laughing too loud? Like Laz was coming over to the table and laughing with us.
Yes.
You know, it was a beautiful experience. So I definitely encourage everybody, if you have come to this spot, if you haven't come to this spot, you need to come to this spot. And if you're looking for an introductory excuse, Sunday is just the excuse that you need at the Belly Buss Brunch on October the 29th. So Comedylicious.ca, make sure that you come through. Let's talk about the food. I've looked at your menu. Besides the breakfast menu that we're going to be serving, I was really interested in the fusion concept that you have. Like, one of my most favorite things to get when I come here is the cauliflower.
Okay.
It's such a small thing. It's such a small appetizer, but it is one of my favorite things because of the sauces and everything that go with it.
Yep.
It's so well done. But cauliflower is not a traditional Caribbean food. You know, I like how you use what's here.
We've been able to, again, think outside the box. We've been able to experiment with some of our Caribbean dishes, some of our Caribbean vegetables, some of our Caribbean fruits. In some cases, like the mango salad changes it as well. And that's what gave Laz the edge, in my opinion. That's what I saw in terms of the development and the making of the restaurant. Being able to take some of the products and fuse differently. Because, yes, we eat it in a particular way in the Caribbean, but to be able to serve it in a North American environment, you have to add a little bit of a flavor, North American style to it, serve it differently. Give it a little bit of I want to say the word upscale approach to it. So that's what you're seeing. the way the cauliflower is prepared, the way the mango salads are prepared. We know mango from off the tree, juices running on our hands, and that kind of stuff. When you serve it in another environment, people are like, wait a minute, I'm getting mango, but I'm getting a different look and feel. The same for the cauliflower. We grew up eating what we call akra. Now it's, the North American name is now saltfish fritter.
Yes.
But it's the same akra.
Right.
Akras are things that we eat by dozens in the Caribbean. People are now North American and now saying, wow. And there are those who live here, haven't had it for years. So it's like, damn, this is happening with all of the sauces. You get the tamarind sauces, you get the garlic sauce, you get this, you get that, and so on. Meatballs, different things that we do, you know. So some of our dishes are being served more elegantly.
Yes.
It has a little bit of an artistic flair to it, but it's the same product at the end of the day. I've had some people come here and do it, and I'm pleased to hear that. I mean, when I go to Trinidad or I go to Barbados, I don't get these things anymore. But here I am in Toronto and I'm getting it in Markham. And that's because we've gone back to our roots, but brought it forward with a little bit of a more artistic approach.
I see.
So some of the things that we still don't get when we go back home, because we at home have gotten to North Americanized.
North Americanized.
We into the burgers and we into the McDonald's and stuff back home. We're not into the aquas and stuff anymore. Unless you go to somebody's home and granny make it in a particular way. When you come to Laz, we brought that forward in different ways. So it has merged into something that makes us different, that sets us apart from the average. You're not going to go down the street and anywhere else and find these things. You have to come to Laz for it.
You have to come to Laz for it.
We have branded, we have coined it in a particular way to get, unless of course you still have granny home and she can make it, you know, get in your house, you know, that kind of thing. The fry bakes, the coconut bakes are still there, you know, you get all of these things coming out. We've merged different dishes from different islands, you know, people come here and they'll get jerk, we get jerk wings, you get jerk burgers, that's synonymous with a Jamaican flavor. You get Jamaican callaloo, separate the callaloo you get in Trinidad, that kind of stuff, you know. You get different types of drinks, you get the sorrel, the ginger beer, the mobi, served in a different style.
Yes, like the sorrel mimosa.
Yeah, it's served in a mimosa style.
In a different
It is sorrel, but with a little bit of a flair to it.
Yes,
and
it's
so
a
on.
very nice flair.
So those who have come have been intrigued, have enjoyed it, have recognized the difference, and I'm happy that we're able to create that space and that environment.
It's like a variation on the fusion, because I think when people consider fusion, they often think it's one culture, our culture merged with a North American culture, but in this case, the fusion is really all of the different types of Caribbean islands that are represented. Correct.
For example, you spoke about the mimosa. We use Canadian wines within the sorrel to come with the mimosa. So, you know, we've engaged certain local wineries that are using their products, Canadian products, with Caribbean products as well. That's why we are fusing in that sense. Even the foods, some of the seasonings and that we come out of the Caribbean, we'll be using some of the locals as well. We go to the local farmers here to get their stuff and so on.
Yeah, I was hearing about a lot of your products are locally sourced.
We are very much focused on what happens locally. You know,
Yeah,
we will use local Canadian wines versus going to. We can get wines out of Argentina, wines out of Italy, wines out of France. We want to work with the Canadian wines to make it happen and so on. So we are fusing in that sense.
Excellent. That's exemplary. So I guess when I'm still going on the same concept of fusion, it's like you had a fusion with Laz's food artistry with your background in entertainment?
Yes, it does. It does mix as well. I mean, I have a diverse background. And most people who know me will know, people can't even pinpoint what my profession is.
Well, we'd like to know.
But I'm an IT consultant by profession. My background is really IT. But I was brought up in the artistic environment, in the artistic world, being King of Carnival in Trinidad. I'm still a band leader in Trinidad.
You were King of Carnival in Trinidad?
Yes. I'm also a band leader. I've brought several bands in Trinidad. I've been involved from way back with the Minchell days, McFarlane. I was the director of McFarlane.
Wow.
The band. We have a band this year, and I'm merging a new band in Trinidad this year called Kinetic Mass, which is the likes of the Peter Samuels and a few band leaders have come together to merge. So we are doing a band this year which represents something called Japan culture.
So I'm here sitting down with soca, calypso, correct, cultural royalty right now. That's what
so part of that, I mean, most people who know me know, because they say they have a new term, if you know, kind of thing. I don't really promote myself in that way. I stay within my focus of what I'm doing. But I am a believer and a lover of our culture. I am an administrator and work with a number of young artists, young creatives in developing their talent. I believe that our cultural, particularly Caribbean cultural talent, is very powerful and needs to be, and this is where the House of Culture side comes in.
Yes.
House of Culture was born out of the ability to create environments and spaces for our creative artists, giving them the respect they deserve and rewarding them for their works. The pandemic created a void. It sent a lot of our cultural talents backwards. Mm-hmm. And House of Culture was born even before the pandemic, but the pandemic gave us an opportunity to say, be resilient. Let us find ways to take you forward. So even at Laz, we created a small stage where talent could have been presented and continue to present in small spaces. So we have a number of musicians, jazz artists come out of the Caribbean, a number of guys out of Grenada, some living locally, and every Thursday we do a live jazz.
Every Thursday here at Laz.
Right here. We were on the patio during the summer and we're right here in this space during the winter. Okay. I've created a number of events as well. I did something called Carnival City in 2022. It was an inaugural development of Carnival. Didn't do 100% as well as we expected.
Well, we were just coming out.
Just coming out of COVID, left us with some financial challenges which we were still trying to clean up.
That was in Durham?
It was in Ajax.
In Ajax.
Yes. So we're still working on that. But the intention was to really develop the culture and take it to another level. And we're going to be back in 2024 as well. We're working towards that. But we've created these small spaces in the meantime that can give our cultural artists an opportunity to present themselves, to practice, to get themselves to that professional level that they ought to be at, to be successful in the world. So it takes different genres of music. We've had all of the local talents come forth. As I say, poetry was something to me that really blew my mind away. I've seen some young poets come here and really deliver some renditions that they raised my pores. Moving in that sense. So we tried to do that once a month. Comedy was something before we met. I was telling you I wanted to start our Comedy Wednesdays, and then when Comedylicious came up, I had to back off because I saw a powerful train coming towards me. I said, hey, let me don't put a little car in the way.
You want strategic partnerships, yes, that's everything.
So I'm happy that you all are involved and you're bringing this to the table, honestly, because now I'm seeing where we can develop it going forward. And where we can do more of this on a regular basis.
Yes.
To keep some of your talents employed and operating. And I know with comedy you need to be practicing regularly to get it right.
Yes.
And that's important. And so this is where House of Culture came. This is where I founded this organization to help in these areas, to bring some administrative capabilities to the table to do that, to create a platform where these things can be presented, recognized and rewarded in its own way. In 2024, we are building a very big program that's going to take some of these into concert-style environments, where we're going to present on a bigger scale, on a bigger platform. Laz is just a stepping stone for small pockets, but then this is going to turn into something huge in my mind, my vision for where I want us to go with these types of creative talents. So who knows? I'm going to probably see you on a stage in front of 5,000 people next year, and yes, that's what I'm looking for.
Well, that's definitely what I'm looking for too.
Yeah, I will make it happen.
That's very exciting.
Really, I'm excited about doing things like that, and that's a challenge I take up at that level.
I appreciate it too, because we do need these stepping stones. I find many people, we want to go from the ground straight to the moon, but what we really need is a solid foundation, somebody who knows how to help us make that first step, put the foot down firmly before we take the next step.
And in your environment with the comedy, there are a number of people who have expressed interest. People who dine here have been promoting it, and people have been saying, what comedy? There was a couple who was here last week, they have to fly out to Montreal. They were trying to change their tickets to stay. I'm like, you guys see, don't worry, they're going to come back. Because one of the questions they were asking was, who were some of these comedians? A lot of people don't know that local artists exist within the. Some people want to know if they were Caribbean comedians.
Yes.
Because it's very different from North American comedy to Caribbean comedy, and some people were trying to determine who they were and that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, and all of the comedians that we're having at the Sunday show, so that includes Cliff Knight, he's Guyanese. We have Anthony Engelbrecht, he's Jamaican. I myself am from St. Vincent. And we have Nikki B. I think she might also be, she might be Jamaican Canadian. And our host, Natasha, or we call her Lady Day, she's half Jamaican, half Caucasian. And I think the beauty of this next generation of Caribbean comedians is that they're picking up, like this generation is picking up where people like, you know, Paul Keynes Douglas and even Aroma Spencer kicked off with the kind of storytelling. Comedy is now, we have our own stories to tell, and it might be the classic first generation Canadian story of, you know, how we felt about our parents when we had to take, you know, curry goat to school, or our parents came and were speaking with an accent when they had to go to the PTA, or, you know, when they had to go and talk to our teachers and things like that, but it's all still our same Caribbean story.
Right.
You know, and there are a lot of comedians, Caribbean comedians, both young and old, that definitely need a lot more exposure, but you find on many shows in the mainstream, you will have many comedians, but then just one black comedian, just one that's supposed to handle all of the content of everything that it means to be black.
Right.
And a Caribbean black is a different kind of black from other types of black. We're a very diverse type of people.
Right.
So when you go to a Caribbean show, you have a different experience than if you went to any other type of show.
That's good to know. That excites me. I'm going to play host here a little bit and ask you a question.
Oh no. Okay.
Because I'm getting those questions from people. People are asking what type of comedy. You know, the comedy can go two ways. It can get a little smutty. I know some friends went to a comedy show the other day and they came back a little bit discontented. They felt it was a little bit too smutty, a little bit over the top. What can people expect from you on Sunday, from you and your team?
Excellent question, and I've received those kinds of questions as well. Now, all of the comedians that I've selected for this show, I've asked them to do clean comedy, and these are comedians that I've worked with before. They understand how to address a Caribbean sensibilities. You know, I always give the example of how we do things in soca. You know, we're not just in your face with it. You know, they just, you know, you make a joke about a little planting and you're called the plumber man and stuff like that. We don't come straight out with it. So that's what people can expect from this kind of show. We're not looking for no swearing or no gratuitous sexuality, especially not in the middle of the day on a Sunday, right? So that's not how we do. We promote
I think that's important.
Clean comedy.
It doesn't have to be, I mean, I'm not saying that people need to be stifled.
No.
But it needs to be put over in a way that it brings about a bit of maturity.
Yes.
And I got those questions when I was helping to try to promote it for you as well. People did go to some of the shows and said, I went to a couple of shows, I won't call some of the names and I know who they are. They are really over the top. It was a little bit disgusting and it got, you know, a little bit not my flavor. So I was trying to, I just went to one last weekend, but I said, no, I doubt that's going to happen at last. So I'm happy that you were able to clear that up for some people who want. I hope the audience that's watching get that message loud and clear.
Yes.
Because that's what we're promoting. We're promoting a standard where we can take ourselves to another level quite comfortably.
Yes, because comedy, there's a lot of different types of comedy, like you said, for different environments. The comedy that I would expect to hear at 11 o'clock at night in a bar is not the comedy that I would expect to see on Sunday morning on a brunch.
Right.
That's two different types of environment, different types of audience. So what you would be expecting is 1 o'clock in the afternoon Sunday comedy.
Right. And my next question for you, the host, is how did you get into comedy? Because what is a young person, I'm saying you're young.
Oh, I'm not young, I'm just black.
You're young. into comedy as part of it. What brought that talent to the fore?
Well, I feel like we come to it naturally. You know, like I've grown up as a young girl listening to my mother and my auntie do comedy all the time, but they did it for each other in the kitchen. Right. You know, or on the telephone, they were always laughing. And I think most comedians would think the first laugh they ever heard was their mother's laugh, and the first person they ever made laugh was their mother. However we might do it, we make our mothers laugh, and we like how that feeling makes us feel. So I never thought about doing comedy professionally. It was not even on my radar.
Right.
But when, so I would say about like 7 years ago, my mother passed away, and all of that, the humor that I had really became a source of healing. I could tell funny stories about my mother, and everybody would be sitting around talking and laughing. Even when we did the 9 nights, what we would do, when someone passed away, I say for the audience who may not know, when someone passes away, we come together for 9 nights, and we celebrate that person right up until
tell all the stories that come out.
Tell all the stories. And even in my grief, I watched all the aunties and uncles laughing. I have never seen so much alcohol come through my house. Everybody came to the door, had a bottle and something to eat, and all they did was laugh. And I say, you know what? This should continue. This should continue.
Because one of the things, and the reason why I asked the question is because is comedy dying art or growing art? And the reason why I asked that, take for example, Calypso. I love Calypso. But Calypso has turned into soca, and Calypso has become somewhat of a dying art, which we're trying to revive in a particular way. But it still exists in the core areas of people. It's like Trinidad, but even Toronto, where Calypso is trying to be vibrant, they're not getting themselves up to the level that is required. And I'm hoping that we can work to get that in itself up and coming. I saw comedy in the same light, where it was not being promoted by the youth, it was not being seen by the youth as an art form that can develop, or was it that it was dying in a particular way? What are your thoughts?
I feel like comedy it's growing and dying at the same time. Kind of like when you see a tree and the tree is like brown and gray and dying, but there's a green leaf that's growing out of the side of a dying tree. I feel that comedy as we once knew it is dying. Like they say, people are too sensitive and they don't want you to joke about certain things and they don't want you to talk about certain things. But the growing side of comedy is finding a new and different way to do that, to still tell the stories and still talk about it. But we have to get more people who are willing to do it. And part of the work that we do with Bish Funny Comedy or Funny Bishness, as we say, our focus right now is to try to get more women into comedy, because we believe that we need more voices. We need the aunties and the mothers that were laughing in the kitchen, we want to take them out of the kitchen and onto the stage, because our stories matter, But many people you try to talk to, they say, oh, not me, I'm scared. Right. I'm shy. But I feel that it's just, like you said, a practicing. Like I always say, if you can do it at the domino table, you can do it on stage. Right. Because when I go on stage, that's all I'm doing is pretending that everybody in front of me is just somebody in my kitchen.
Okay.
The audience is my kitchen.
That's interesting, because you're right. As part of Caribbean culture, the twist of the tongue, I call it, is always there. I'm a comedian in my own right, among my own friends. I always have people laughing. You would take something and turn it into a different meaning and have everybody in stitches. But can I do that in front of an audience and keep a straight face? I don't know if I have the ability to do that. So it's interesting that it's growing, because the talent is there. It's just a matter of how it is expressed and how it's developed.
Yes, and I also think that comedy is something that becomes more of a maintenance, more of a healing for ourselves than a performance. Right? I don't just do it for them. I also do it for me, because I have things that I need to say, and I want to like bounce it off the audience. Right. So, we're looking at how we can do comedy and life fusion. Where instead of there always being a stage and an audience, a comedy show might be, we invite 10 people to just sit around a table with some sorrel mimosas and just make each other laugh all night long, and that's the show. Mm-hmm. But that's comedy that looks like this, not just comedy that looks like this. See, so it's changing and it's moving, but it's always going to exist.
That's
Any
good
more
to me.
questions?
No, that's good for me.
Good
You
for me
answered
too.
my questions.
Okay, well, thank you. This has been a really great session sitting down here with you and just getting all of this background and wisdom and culture. I love it. And I just want to again invite people to make sure that you come out on Sunday for the Comedylicious Belly Buss Brunch. That's going to be Sunday at 1 o'clock here at Laz Authentic Cuisine. And you can find them on Instagram if you want to see some of their other events that they're having at Laz_Authentic_Cuisine on Instagram. And you can find out about this show. You can get tickets to this show and also find out about our other 3 shows happening on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and here on Sunday at comedylicious.ca. You can also find us on Instagram at Comedylicious Fest or at Food Folks Jokes. And I want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank Scarpod Studio, and I want to thank Spice of Life, T.O., for the best pepper sauce. And I want to thank AfriCore, all supporters of live comedy. Thank you so much for supporting the art of live comedy. And I want to thank you again, Gerry, for being with us tonight, for letting me laughs.
It's my pleasure. And most look forward to having you on Sunday.
Looking forward to seeing you on Sunday. So thanks again for coming, everybody. This has been Let 'Em Eat Laugh, the show where comedy, culture, and the culinary collide. And we'll see you again soon, hopefully Sunday.
Foot.